This is a great year to pay down at quarterback in your fantasy football drafts. Instead of using early picks on Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, etc., wait until the later rounds and draft one of these gems. Here are 6 late round quarterbacks who are going to crush their ADPs in 2025. Let's start with Jets quarterback Justin Fields. Justin Fields is the best example of differentiating between real life football and fantasy football. In real life, he's not that great. Probably not the guy to lead your team to the playoffs. But in fantasy, he can be that league winner you got in the later rounds. Let's look back at 2024, for example. He started 6 games for the Steelers and was benched for washed up Russell Wilson. But in those 6 games, Justin Fields averaged 19 fantasy points per game, which would have been good for QB7 on the season. Prior to that, he was QB9 in fantasy points per game in 2023 and QB5 in 2022. Of course, a lot of that is fueled by his rushing production. He averaged 38.5 rushing yards and scored 5 touchdowns in his 6 starts last season. And in his last season as a full-time starter, which was 2023, he started 13 games for the Bears. He was 5th in fantasy points per dropback. He averaged 9.5 rush attempts per game, and he racked up 657 rushing yards, which was 50.5 per game, which was number 2 among all quarterbacks. And looking back at 2022, Justin Fields ran for an incredible 1,143 yards and 8 touchdowns in 15 games. He did look a little bit calmer out there as a passer last season as well. He completed a career best 65.8% of his passes while throwing 5 touchdowns to just 1 interception. Now he gets the full-time gig in New York, where he will work with new offensive coordinator Tanner Engstrand, who comes from the Lions, where he was their passing game coordinator. He'll have a clear number 1 wide receiver, a loaded running back room, and a solid offensive line in front of him. And the leash will be long. He's certainly not getting benched for Tyrod Taylor at this point in his career, so I expect we'll get a full season with Justin Fields as the starter, which should give us a 1,000-yard rushing season and a top 10 fantasy performance. His rushing ability gives him such a high floor. There's no way he finishes outside the top 12 quarterbacks. But he also has the upside, and we've seen it before, of being a top 5 guy at the position. I'm all in on Justin Fields this year. I think this could be a career year for him, and I want to be part of that. But if Justin Fields isn't your flavor, how about another guy who's already proven he can finish as a top 10 fantasy quarterback? Let's talk about Brock Purdy. 2024 is widely viewed as a down year for Brock Purdy, but he was still the QB10 with 18.6 fantasy points per game. He was number 3 in pressured completion percentage, top 10 in passing yards, number 8 in fantasy points per dropback, number 8 in deep ball completion percentage, number 10 in red zone completion percentage, and he was number 5 in passing yards per game. His 8.5 yards per attempt ranked number 2. He did this despite the 49ers offense being decimated by injuries all season. From Christian McCaffrey to Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, the offensive line, and even their first-round rookie wide receiver didn't play until late in the season because he was shot. But when Purdy did have his full cast of weapons back in 2023, he was able to get all the way up to QB6 in fantasy points per game. Now heading into 2025, Deebo is gone, and Brandon Ayuk is still recovering from last season's knee injury. But Christian McCaffrey is back. Juwan Jennings will look to build off last season's breakout, and Ricky Pearsall is healthy heading into his second season. And of course, they got the big man, George Kittle, who's playing as well as ever at age 31. So Brock Purdy should continue to produce top 10 numbers in fantasy football, especially when we consider the 49ers defense is probably not going to be that great this year, which will force the offense to have to keep up with opponents, play from behind, and score a lot of points, which means more passing. And Brock Purdy showed us last year he is an underrated runner too. He rushed for 323 yards and 5 touchdowns in 2024. He is one of the safest picks you could make at quarterback this year. And the cost to get him is more than reasonable. And we know the upside to get into the top 6, even push top 5 is there because he's already done it. We've seen it. We've seen it happen. If I don't draft an early quarterback this year, and I have no plans to, Brock Purdy is high on my priority list. Now, if you want some serious upside while using even less draft capital, look no further than one of the most intriguing second-year breakouts, Drake Maye. Drake Maye was the 3rd overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, and he flashed as a rookie. After taking over the starting job from Jacoby Brissett in Week 6, Drake Maye threw for 2,276 yards and 15 touchdowns, while adding 421 yards on the ground and 2 rushing touchdowns. He did that despite incompetent coaching and the worst offensive line of football and probably the worst cast of weapons around him as well. Now he's entering his second season with real NFL coaches running that program, a proven offensive coordinator, Stephon Diggs as his wide receiver 1, plus 2 explosive rookies with Kyle Williams, the wide receiver in the 3rd round, and all-purpose running back Trevion Henderson, who they took in the 2nd round. The Patriots also made significant upgrades to the offensive line. They drafted left tackle Will Campbell at number 4 overall. They signed Garrett Bradbury as center and right tackle Morgan Moses in free agency. Everything is aligning for Drake Maye to be a top 12 quarterback in 2025. I mean, even without all the things the team has surrounded him with this offseason, he still managed to score as a QB1 4 times in 2024. And he dropped outside the top 18 just once if you don't count the game where he left in the 2nd quarter with a concussion. And Drake Maye showed some good metrics last year, including top 5 in pressure completion percentage and number 2 in Player Profiler's rushing EPX rating as a runner, which measures explosive plays versus other players across the league. In fact, Drake Maye finished number 4 all time in yards per carry by a quarterback in a single season. 1 and 2 are Michael Vick, 3 is Kyler Murray, and it's 4 Drake Maye. And yet he did this despite the Patriots coaching staff refusing to call designed runs for their quarterback. It happened one time all year. One time the Patriots called a run designed for Drake Maye. Everything else came on scrambles. I imagine that will change in 2025 under the new regime. They're going to do a better job of taking advantage of Drake Maye's dual threat ability, which just means more rushing upside for a guy who ran for more than 1,100 yards over his final 2 seasons at North Carolina. And we know they're willing to draw up run plays for their quarterback because back when Cam Newton was the quarterback for the Patriots, Josh McDaniels was the offensive coordinator. They designed a lot of runs for Cam Newton, especially in the red zone. I'm guessing some of those plays are going to be implemented for Drake Maye. I'm ranking Drake Maye this year ahead of Patrick Mahomes, ahead of Justin Herbert, ahead of Baker Mayfield. He is going to break out in his 2nd season and be a top 10 fantasy quarterback. Let's jump to another young gun stepping into a dream situation, J.J. McCarthy. Unfortunately, J.J. McCarthy had a lost rookie season. We didn't get to see the flashes that Drake Maye gave us. After the Vikings drafted him 10th overall, he wound up tearing his meniscus during the preseason, and he missed the entirety of his rookie campaign. But he showed the team enough to believe he could be the uncontested starter in 2025. They let Sam Darnold walk in free agency after his breakout season and after leading the team to a bunch of wins and a trip to the playoffs. And there's a lot to like about J.J. McCarthy. He was a winner at Michigan. He's a very solid pocket passer with good accuracy and a history of performing well in a pro-style offense. But he's not just a statue in the pocket. He has real athleticism to extend the play, throw on the run, even pick up chunk plays as a runner. His athleticism is such an underrated part of his game, and it's a big reason why he's such a value in drafts right now. Now he finds himself in the absolute best situation a young quarterback could ask for. He's got an elite offensive play caller, head coach in Kevin O'Connell. He's surrounded by some of the best weapons in the game, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, and the team invested a ton into upgrading the offensive line this offseason. They signed Ryan Kelly and Will Fries in free agency. They spent a 1st-round pick on guard Donovan Jackson. Plus, they're getting left tackle Christian Darrisaw back from last year's injury. J.J. McCarthy is set up for success in the best way possible. This should be a pass-centric offense, one that is proven to generate a ton of production from the quarterback position. I mean, just look at what Sam Darnold did last year. He was a top 10 fantasy quarterback in this offense. J.J. McCarthy can come in and do the same, if not better. Let's go from a pair of young guns to a vet, Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is one of the best values in all of fantasy football right now, regardless of position. He's the guy that nobody wants to touch this year. And I get it. Last year was rough. An injury cost him the final 9 weeks of the season, and things weren't exactly going great before then either. But in reality, things are set up for Dak Prescott to have one of the best seasons of his career. The obvious is the massive weaponry upgrade with the trade for George Pickens. He gives Dallas their first true number 2 wide receiver to pair with CeeDee Lamb since the Amari Cooper days. George Pickens will allow CeeDee Lamb to really dominate the slot, while he can be that true X receiver and downfield weapon. That's going to open up the whole offense. And considering what the Cowboys did or didn't do really at the running back position this offseason, we know this is going to be a pass-centric offense, much like it was last year. In weeks 1 through 8, Dallas ranked 8th in neutral pass rate and 10th in pass rate over expectation, according to Fantasy Pros. Not only are they calling a lot of pass plays, but they're running a lot of plays in general. In 2024, the Cowboys were 4th in team pass plays per game, and they were 1st in pace of play. Only helping matters is a below-average defense on the other side, which ranked 31st in points allowed in 2024. And if we look back at Dak Prescott's last healthy season of 2023, he threw for over 4,500 passing yards and 36 touchdowns. Prior to that, he was QB 13 in 2022, QB 9 in 2021, and while he didn't qualify to rank in 2020 because he only played in 5 games, he averaged an incredible 27.9 fantasy points per game over those 5 games. And that was coming off a QB 3 finish in 2019. So QB 1 territory is no stranger to Dak Prescott, and he's set up as well as ever to get back to that point. Yet he's being treated as if he's as washed up as Aaron Rodgers. But I'm not shying away. I will happily take the discount at the quarterback position and lead the Dak Prescott train in 2025. And finally, let's wrap it up with a guy who quietly turned it all around last season and might just be one of the best late round values in all of fantasy football. Carolina Panthers quarterback Bryce Young. 2024 was a tale of 2 seasons for Bryce Young. It started ugly, pretty much where he left off from his rookie season. He threw 3 picks and no touchdowns in the first 2 weeks, ultimately leading to getting benched for Andy Dalton. And you know you're bad when you're getting benched for Andy Dalton. Bryce Young was the backup for the next 5 weeks before getting back on the field and looking like a completely different quarterback. Over his final 10 games, he threw 15 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions. He topped 2,100 yards passing and just kept getting better as the weeks went on. In fact, his final 3 starts resulted in 612 yards, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 111.6. He scored more than 20 fantasy points in all 3 games, with 2 of them over 30 points. You could just see the game slowing down for him and his confidence rising week over week. It was also nice to see him use his legs more too. He had 5 rushing touchdowns over the last 6 weeks and actually finished the season 3rd among all quarterbacks in rushing scores. Now turning to 2025, he'll look to build off that second half momentum in the second year under head coach and play caller Dave Canales. And the team added a stud number 1 alpha wide receiver in Teteroa McMillan with the 8th overall pick. McMillan is going to give Bryce Young that big-bodied playmaker that he so desperately needed. A good down-the-field target for Bryce Young, who actually looked really good as a deep ball passer in 2024. He was 6th in air yards per attempt, 8th in deep ball accuracy rating, 5th in deep ball catchable pass rate, according to playerprofiler.com. And now that supporting cast isn't looking so bad. You got Ted McMillan, you got Adam Thielen, last year's first-round pick Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, who had a mini breakout in his rookie season, plus tight end Jatavian Sanders, who is also a candidate to break out in 2025. You're not drafting Bryce Young to be your QB1 in traditional 1 quarterback leagues, but in Superflex, he can be a really nice value as your QB2. And in single quarterback leagues, you can stash him as your QB2 if you go late round quarterback for your starter. He can become a guy you can stream with a chance to experience a full-on breakout and be top 12 at the position when all is said and done. But those are the 6 late-round quarterbacks who could smash their ADPs in 2025. But now it's your turn. Who are you targeting late in drafts? Drop your picks in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be bringing content like this all summer long. And if you want more from me, you can find my rankings, articles, resources, tools, everything at yardsperfantasy.com.